I do not like Minecraft. So, despite knowing about Hytale for a while, I never really cared about it. Until it released, and people said it was more similar to Terraria, my favorite game. I'm always keeping an eye out for games that give a similar but unique feeling to it. And that has led me to play a decent number of titles. With a good amount of experience across the genre and decent knowledge of game design, I've noted what gives these games their appeal, and more importantly, what ruins them. And with the scope of Hytale being large and it still being early in development, I feel like it'd be a disservice not to give my 2 cents. Does it count as unsolicited if the devs are asking for feedback? We start the game and I lied. Character creation. Alright, I kinda lied again. I didn't record making my character. Still, the creator is very diverse while also being simple, so it's fairly easy to make a good looking character without having to spend much time on it. Like, I'd say that this is recognizable, despite missing some important features, like horns. Which, why is there no horn accessory? It's usually like the first cosmetic people add. The only cosmetic with proper horns is his helmet, neither part of it is cute, and I'm stuck with either a ribbon or rabbit ears, and I know this isn't a real fall of the game, and I know he's probably playing, but I am upset, and this is my video, so I decide what's in the script. Okay, so now actually starting the game, we spawn in a weird room with little value. This room mostly exists to prevent you from being spawned next to anything dangerous, but it also teaches the player about interaction, indestructible objects like pots. This is a great introduction. In my old guide to starting Terraria, I said that there should be reduced spawn rates at the beginning of a world to prevent new players from getting attacked by enemies early, as it could cause extra chaos in something that's already confusing. And while it's not entirely the same, as my reasoning for that was to allow new players to speak to the guide, having the players start in a safe space still allows them a moment to get comfortable with the controls and UI. So it's... Oh, and I just threw everything back in the chest. Okay, so that's how ladders work. I don't think I can make that. Okay. Oh, that's what this is. Great place to put an entrance. You know, just wonderful place. That's exactly where it should go. I'm gonna stay away from that. As a bear. It's a big ass bear. I should probably hurry up and make some actual shelter. I don't know how to heal. Imagine it's eating. Do like this spot. Down real quick. With finding a good spot for a home, I have my first experience with the Builder's Workshop. Its UI is very odd. You input certain blocks into it, and it will give you all the blocks you can turn it into. The reason I say it's odd is that it's the only workbench that works this way. I figure this is to limit how many options are shown at once, to prevent the menu from becoming an incomprehensible eldritch deity, which is good. However, it's a bit annoying not knowing what I can or can't use without bringing it to the workshop. And I think, unless it only works with wood and stone, adding something like Terraria's material tag to blocks would be a good change, which basically every one of these games should have anyway. As for normal crafting, there's a timer on it for some reason. I'm pretty sure this exists to represent that you're actually spending time to, like, forge a weapon, but it just feels like waiting. And in these games you craft a lot. Consider how much time that overall wastes. Now, you can also extend that idea to things like smelting or cooking. While those take a notable amount of time, they are independent, so you can get something else done while they work. Crafting, on the other hand, requires you to just blankly stare at the screen for a second or two for vibes, I guess.
I assume I can't.
I'll also cover armor here since I don't have a better place for it. I think they're a bit too costly. If and when more armors are added, then metal armors may become obsolete due to their cost. And even without other options, it still feels a bit grindy, given the metals have other important uses. There are 2 armor sets that drop from enemies, but both have a 5% drop chance and only one piece can be dropped at a time. To make things worse, one set is only dropped by Trork, and the other is a Zone 4 drop that's equal to Zone 1 gear. I guess that's one way to prevent the metal armors from becoming obsolete.
Another bloodleaf. What do those do besides look cool? Another bloodleaf. And these braziers. You have red eyes. Does that mean you're hostile? No. Well, that is very unfortunate. What? Oh. Oh. Something tells me that's not quite right. I don't know why I keep eating. Like, it's not regeneration based. Oh. It's hit hard.
So usually I don't mention things that are more side content, I guess. But I wanted to say that the underwater stuff is super pretty, and I'm excited for when diving gear gets added to adventure mode. I also want to mention it because you'll see that I have a complicated relationship with it. Back on the track, I decided to take a peek into the desolate lands and found a bit of adamantite that I couldn't mine.
Or something.
This could imply a serious problem, and one that appears in most of these games in some way. Linearity. In the CES, you're entirely unable to mine blocks without first getting a pickaxe from the previous biome, requiring you to go to biomes in a specific order. It's mostly the same in Core Keeper. Sometimes it's not, but in that case it takes like 3 seconds to mine one wall. So your options are either fuck off or the Sisyphus experience. And while lesser, Terraria's hard mode or progression fits this too. The problem is that it gets very repetitive. When I was playing the CES, I felt a bit annoyed when I got to the deep caves because I knew it would be the same thing, just with new actors. I can't be sure this is the case in Hytale though, because adamantite doesn't have an alternative, nor are stronger ores available yet. It may just be that thorium and cobalt act as a barrier to prevent new characters from skipping straight to a high tier bar, acting like Terraria's Nightmare or Deathbringer pickaxes. Granted, in Hytale you can mine blocks, just not ore. So you can do biomes early only by fighting and looting, which is good design. But Hytale's combat can be very reliant on what gear you have, namely when fighting multiple enemies, which most of the intended combat structures I've seen have. but that also makes skipping tiers very hard, so maybe that's worth it. Another way of avoiding linearity is having biomes that give equal rewards, which Hytale would have with the desert and snow, if the player didn't have to do both of them. But you're required to get cobalt and thorium to upgrade your workbenches, meaning you don't get a choice among equal options, just what you do first. I'd say cobalt and thorium should be interchangeable in recipes that are not specific. For instance, armor and weapons would require one or the other, while things like workbench upgrades would just require you to have enough of the bar's tier. This makes it so that you're not required to go to both biomes, but also makes it so that there's little reason either. So we'll have to make some tweaks for that. The armor already does this. Cobalt increases signature attack damage, and thorium has poison resistance. So no changes are required there. But thorium's bonus is notably worse. Weapons, however, will need changes. Maybe thorium inflicts poison, and cobalt has faster charge attacks that take less energy, for example. Alternatively, you can split them, making it so that some weapons can only be made with thorium and others with cobalt.
I kind of just immediately forgot that I was going somewhere. I got distracted very quickly. Speaking of which, I'm still getting distracted right now. Ooh.
I pick up a Trork stone sword here and decide to use it over my iron daggers. Remember this moment, I'll be using it as an example. I like to do a bit more live play before going back to talking, but before that, this video went through a lot of rewrites, so I'd really appreciate it if you left a like so I don't feel like I wasted my time.
I really wish I was better at not stepping into fires. I don't know why it's a struggle for me, but it is. I don't know why I'm collecting these. But the bright red, glowing red plant call to me for some reason. Probably not a good thing to be unnaturally and inexplicitly enamored by something called a blood rose, but you know, there's definitely nothing that can go wrong, right? This isn't the most folklore shit you've ever heard in your life. Fuck. I feel like I have some form of thalassophobia. It's like, I'm not afraid of big bodies of water. But I'm always scared of something being in there. I thought for certain he was about to explode. Oh. That's what I'm hearing. Something tells me that's not what that's supposed to be doing. I'm putting this in the video, probably. I forgot that I had this Draco in the corner. That was supposed to be a stream thing. I did that for a stream and I just forgot to remove it. Well, I guess it's there. I really appreciate them having a pommel strike. A lot of games don't have you using like actual techniques and just have it be very basic. What are you? Right. You, I'd imagine, are not as chill. But you are very slow. So I can batter your skull in very easily. Is that a saber tooth? The answer was yes. Big fucking skeleton. Ooh. Can I use this at the... Can I make bone furniture? So this block has variants. But I suppose I could have guessed that. Oh. Oh. Behold. Weapons very silly. I highly approve. Alright, let's talk weapons. Something very important with weaponry is variety. Not only in options, but also in how you obtain them. The simplest way of doing this is to make it so that a lot of weapons are found while exploring. And while there are currently a small number of weapons you can find, like half of them are weaker than iron. I'm sure this is partly due to early access and will change as updates come out, especially as they add full-scale dungeons. Something to be aware of if doing this though, is that it's better to use weapons that can't be crafted as loot, for reasons I'll explain in a second. Material also matters. As I said, you want variety in acquisition, but this doesn't only mean how you obtain the weapon itself. A good example of this is the swords that make the Knight's Edge, as despite being crafted, the Blade of Grass, Volcano, Light's Bane, and Blood Butcherer all require you to do different things. The Blade of Grass has you hunting enemies in the jungle and grabbing some spores while you're there. Volcano has you mine Hellstone for bars, and Light's Bane and Blood Butcherer, despite also being made of bars, still differ, as Demonite and Crimtane are primarily a boss drop. Two other ways to bring variety I mentioned earlier are to either make materials unable to make every type of weapon, or give weapons different bonuses. Or both, these aren't mutually exclusive. If nothing else, you can usually just get away with good weapon design. People will try to use weapons they like the look of. Hell, remember the Trork sword I took? Yeah, that was exactly what I'm talking about. I would have given zero fucks if I found an iron sword, but it was a weapon that looked cooler than my iron daggers, so I wanted to use it. I am not immune to propaganda. Next, let's talk about functionality. Hytale's weapons are sorted into categories, which dictate how they work, and there are no differences within the categories. So every sword behaves the same, for example. While this is passable, I think it'd be better if there were some differences within categories, as it can get boring to use similar weapons throughout the entire game. This was a problem I had with Core Keeper. The weapons never changed much, so getting a new one just started feeling like increasing a stat. And yes, there are games that have you using similar weapons or tools throughout. Those usually make up for it with more advanced enemy or level design, which I don't think would fit Hytale. The first problem with this is that it's hard to make interesting weapons feel right in first-person games. Even something as simple as a blade beam needs some rethinking. And the second problem is actually coding it. While it wouldn't be hard to make a sword with its charge attack be a spin, or its signature be a flurry of slashes, I wouldn't know how to make differences in standard attack combos without requiring making more presets or doing it all manually. My best idea would be that every attack is an individual preset that can be input into a combo sequence, but that would require you to set every combo by hand and would also need to be animated. And if that can't be done automatically, it would just undermine the point of this idea. But this would allow more uniqueness within weapon categories. For example, you could make it so that some battle axe combos end with the vertical swing they currently have, and others have a horizontal swing that can hit multiple enemies. Or you can mix for certain weapons, like a halberd could use a mix of axe swings and spear stabs. Again, I'm not sure how realistic this is to implement. This is only an idea, and if the different weapon categories are well spread, there's a good chance it wouldn't be necessary. That's a hand. Why is the desert like Terraria's Crimson? Where it's just the corpse of a giant. At least I hope it's a corpse. I do not like seeing those words. I like sinking into this shit less. It got worse immediately. Ooh.
Glowing red plants, my favorite. This guy's definitely not dangerous to walk up to. Oh, he wasn't. He kind of just ate shit and died. Oh, this area's massive. Well, that's cool. It's like, my brain immediately wanted to call it Lindell. Volcano Manor. It's not only did I get the wrong name, the place is literally just called Volcano Manor. Oh, that's horrific. Ugh. I do not like looking down this far. Especially knowing that there are abyssal creatures, quote unquote. It is very pretty, but I do not like that there's so much open space. Because with water, that implies something that, you know, you can just be out here and swim up. Oh, that goes deep down there. Can't even, like, swim down there to see without starting to drown, probably. Is that a shark? Yes, that is a hammerhead. I'm going to choose to not engage the shark on account of it being a fucking shark. I'm just gonna load this up in case something tries anything. That's a hammerhead. That's 3 hammerheads. I feel like sharks probably shouldn't be this coalesced. But I suppose who am I to tell sharks what they can and can't do? How territorial are sharks? Do sharks actually even, like, have territory? They might just not. Alright, there are 2 things left I want to do in this video. First, I want to go over everything I've said as cliff notes, then I want to cover my thoughts on the game overall. So, in no particular order, here are some things I would like to see going forward. A keyword system. Items should state if they're used as a material, how high they stack, and if they're used in the builder's workshop. The crafting timer removed. Armor's made a bit cheaper. More variety in weapon behavior and acquisition. Thorium and cobalt to be interchangeable in certain uses, and have exclusive uses and or unique benefits. Make the snow and desert biomes have different loot to give purpose to visiting both, but not requiring it. These last 2 should also be applied to later biomes and metals. Now, my overall thoughts on the game. It is very fun and has high potential, but I can see some cracks in the foundation. I feel like the game's really setting itself up to have a linear structure that I'd say really hurts these games. Even with the world design being super good, I still think having to go to zones in order will make them feel like a checklist more than you'd want. I wouldn't be surprised if the zone structure is designed around adventure mode, with exploration mode having to try and make those same tools work. These modes have very different structures and need different tools, and one or both of them will likely be weaker from sharing. Whether the devs risk that, or try to add things to address it and risk the modes feeling too different, is a choice I cannot help make. The biomes feel unique and have interesting features, like the Skarok Hive and Outlander bases, even in what I'd imagine is a bare state. While looking at the wiki for this video, I saw quite a bit I didn't find myself. It looks like there's good block variety and decor, but I am not a builder, so I'm not qualified to speak on that. Combat is alright. I feel like getting into melee range feels more punishing than it should, and you should just try to use ranged options as much as you can. The main reason for that is just that you can't really avoid damage up close, and all healing takes time to use, so it feels like you just have to tank and heal after. I've seen the devs take close notice of community feedback and requests, which is always, well, almost always a good thing. So I am very excited to see where development goes from here, regardless of whether or not this video makes any difference. After all, these are only my opinions. Trying to appeal to everyone only causes the game to be weaker for those who would love it most. You have to know the people you are making your game for, and where you can expand without content conflicting with what they like. And if my ideas are not aligned with the vision of the devs, if I'm not the target audience, then I'd rather they ignore me and make the game that they want, because that's how a game becomes a masterpiece. Also, if any devs watching this, can we get a Keepy cosmetic sometime, please? I need it to finish my Draco cosplay. Okay, thanks, bye.